Students, today I am going to explain what question tags are. A question tag is a short clause that we add to the end of a statement in order to turn it into a question or check that the statement is correct or to invite a response from the listener. It means a question tag does three work. Number one, it turns a statement into a question. The second work is that it checks that the statement is correct. And the third work is that it invites a response from the listener. Now try to understand with the help of examples. Number one, you are a musician, aren't you? Here, the statement has been turned into a question after an addition of question tag. The second example, she can't swim, can see. Here, the speaker already knows that the person can't swim. He only wants to confirm the same. In the third example, he plays football. Does he? Here, the speaker doesn't know whether the person plays football or not. So, he asks a question. Now we have certain rules for question tags and we should know what kind of question tag we need to use for a given statement. So for that we have certain rules. The number one rule is that when we use auxiliary verb be, do or have, a modal verb or main verb in the main clause, then we use the same in the tags. It means if there is an auxiliary verb in the main clause like be, do, have, or a modal verb in the main clause or main verb be in the main clause, then we use the same in the tags. For example, number one, she was crying, wasn't she? Here we see that the auxiliary verb was is there in example number one and the same has been used in the tag. In the second example, he does look like his father, doesn't he? Now, here the auxiliary verb is touch, and the same is there also in the tag. In the third example, they have waited a long time, haven't they? Here, the auxiliary verb is have, and the same is there also in the tag also. Example number 4, she can swim, can't see. Here the modal verb can is there and we can see the same also in the tag. Now the second rule for question tag is that if there is no auxiliary verb or modal verb in the main clause, then we use auxiliary do, does, did in the tag. It means if there is no auxiliary verb, no modal verb, then we use do, does, did in the tag. See, try to understand with the help of examples. Number one, he plays hockey. Does he? Number two, she dances beautifully, doesn't she? The girls wanted to go home, didn't they? Now, number one and number two both are in the simple present tense. So, if the sentences are in simple present tense, then we use the auxiliaries do or does in the tag depending upon the subject, whether the subject is singular or plural. If the subject is singular, we use does in the tag, and if the subject is plural, we use do in the tag. The third example is in the simple past tense, and for simple past tense, we use did in the tag. Now, rule number three, if the main clause verb is I am, then the negative tag aren't I is used. For example, I am late again, aren't I? Number fourth rule is that if the main clause verb is used to, the tag verb is did. It means if the verb used to is present in the main clause, then we use did in the tag. For example, Martin used to live in Oxford, didn't he? Now, rule number five, if the main clause verb is ought to, the tag verb is most commonly should. For example, we ought to do our work, shouldn't we? Or less commonly, ought not we? Sometimes we use ought not we, but should is often used. Rule number 6. When tags follow imperatives, the tag verb is usually will. For example, call me this evening, will you? It means if the sentence is an imperative sentence, the most commonly tag or the most commonly verb that we use in tag is usually will. Now try to understand something more about question tag. That is also very important part. Question tags turn statements into yes no question. They are of two types. The first type of question tag consists of an affirmative main clause and a negative tag, or a negative main clause and an affirmative tag. See number one example. She is a doctor, isn't she? Here the main clause is affirmative, whereas the tag is negative. Now, second example. The train hasn't arrived yet, has it? The main clause here in second example is negative, whereas the tag is affirmative. So this type of tag where the main clause is affirmative, the tag is negative, and the main clause is negative and the tag is affirmative, we use when we expect the answer to the question to confirm that what we say in the main clause is true. It means we already know, the speaker already knows that the fact is true, that it is true, only he wants to confirm the same. In that case, we use affirmative tag for a negative main clause and a negative tag for an affirmative main clause. See, for example, you study in class 5, don't you? Here the speaker knows, here the speaker already knows that the person studies in class 5. Only he wants to confirm the same. See, number two example. Sam is not very old, is he? Here the speaker knows. Here the speaker already knows that Sam is not very old. Only he wants to confirm the same. Now, the second type of question tag consists of an affirmative main clause and an affirmative tag. Here the both are affirmative. The clause is also affirmative and the tag is also affirmative. So this type of tag we use when we don't know if the answer is yes or no. We are not sure about the answer. If the answer is yes or no, in that case we use an affirmative tag even if even if the main clause is affirmative. For example, you are his friend. Are you? She got the email. Did she? So that's all.